everyone, I'm Jess, and you are watching Discern with Jim Dennison. Today is Tuesday, November 2nd. Hi, Jim. Good to see you.
Hi, Jess. Good to see you as well. Thanks.
Well, today we are going to be discussing the Texas abortion law, and just as a, warning, this could be a much longer conversation. Today, we're just going to be focusing on specifics of the bill and a few more practical things at the end. But just know that we want to continue this conversation in a nuanced way. But for our focus today, this is from the New York Times. The United States Solicitor General and a lawyer for Texas abortion providers urged the Supreme Court on Monday to block enforcement of the state's anti-abortion law, while a top lawyer for Texas told the justices they had no power to do so. Over about 3 hours of arguments that sometimes delved into highly technical matters, the Supreme Court wrestled with whether it could or should issue an injunction barring Texas state courts from hearing suits filed under the law known as Senate Bill 8. The law, which bars most abortions after about 6 weeks, has raised novel issues because it is not clear whom a court could order not to carry it out. It relies not on government officials, but on private citizens to enforce it, with $10,000 bounties for successful lawsuits. So, Jim, this bill is very complex, and truthfully, when I read stuff like this, I don't fully understand it, especially with all the legal terminology. So can you just explain what this new Texas law is and why it's being debated?
Absolutely. This is a precursor, and those that have put it forward actually would readily admit that, they've said this publicly, to hopefully eventually ending abortion itself. But the way this is being done is in the context of what's called a heartbeat law. Heartbeat can be detected typically around 6 weeks after conception. And so from that point forward, according to this law, a person would not be allowed legally to obtain an abortion. And if an individual is aware that somebody is seeking an abortion or has procured an abortion or someone has helped arrange that, then that individual can be sued by the private individual for up to $10,000 plus legal costs. Well, now what makes this unique is the ability to enforce this law is not empowered around a government agency. It's around a specific individual. Now, because of Roe v. Wade and then Casey in 1992, abortion is the law of the land prior to viability. This law would be seen as therefore unconstitutional, as it were, as violating settled public policy, except the person who would be actually empowered by this law is no one that an abortion provider can sue. That person doesn't exist yet. They haven't yet filed a suit. It's an individual as opposed to a police force or a government office of some sort. So it's a way around. Previous courts have thrown out heartbeat laws. It's a way around that by making such suits to be possible in the future and by an individual as opposed to a particular jurisdiction or particular kind of governmental agency. So it's a novel way to try to bring a heartbeat bill into law. Now, everybody knows that the real case, even more than SB 8, is going to come up on December 1st when a case is brought forward out of Mississippi that would actually overturn Roe v. Wade itself. So this law doesn't do that. Even if the Supreme Court decides that this law can't be overturned, that's only relative to Texas, that's only relative to abortions from 6 weeks forward, and only if an individual chooses to become involved. It doesn't overturn Roe v. Wade, it doesn't stop abortion specifically, but the case coming up in December possibly could. And so all of that is very much in the news today as regards to the legality of abortion itself.
Can you help me understand the goal or goals of those who are trying to block enforcement of Texas's anti-abortion law? What are they wanting?
Right. They can't get the court to say that this is illegal in the way it's been illegal in the past because no one has yet so-called violated Roe v. Wade. That would be in the future if someone brings a suit against someone that sought an abortion. So what they're trying to claim is that the legal strategy behind this is itself dangerous, that this legal unprecedented strategy ought be stricken. Because if one could do this with abortion, they could do this with other laws as well. They could get around gun laws. They could get around pretty much any federal or civil or state law by attempting the same sort of strategy. So those that are pushing back are doing so not only to enable abortion to still be legal in Texas, but they're claiming on the basis of protecting constitutionality in other contexts as well. Since this law was enacted in September, the abortion rate in Texas has dropped 50%. more than 3,000 less abortions in September compared to August. So it's actually working to lessen the number of abortions in Texas, which for a pro-life supporter like me is really good news. But it's also part of the reason that abortion advocates are before the court trying to get the law struck down, because they don't want there to be any impediment to abortion as it's now understood by the law of the land.
As Christians, what are ways that we can be loving and serving just single moms or single parents, or how are we supporting in our own lives those who could have considered abortion, or maybe they are considering abortion? Like, what can we do on a practical level?
It's a great question, because Ephesians 4:15 calls us to speak the truth in love. We're to do both of those things, not just one or the other, right? So to me, Jess, the big issue here is that we ought not just be pro-birth, we need to be pro-life. If we believe that life begins at conception, it doesn't end until natural death. And then obviously for believers, you have eternal life from the moment that you trust Christ as your Lord. And so we need to be not only about the issue of protecting the life of the unborn, which we certainly should be. I believe absolutely, passionately, adamantly we should be. We also need to be thinking about the mother, need to be thinking about the biological father, need to be thinking about grandparents and the entire system. We need to be looking for ways to have there be less abortion in the country, not focusing our efforts only on the legal side. For instance, the number one reason that women say they consider abortion has to do with finances. Their belief that they don't have the means financially to bring another child into the world. Well, what can we do about that? What can we do to put social safety nets around women with at-risk pregnancies? What can we do to support single mothers? What can we do to support adoption and the urgency, the beauty of adoption? What can we do to offer child care support and child care services? What can we do to provide medical resources more effectively? What can we do to provide counseling resources in cases of difficult circumstance? So we can be pro-life, not just pro-birth, and that can start where you and I are. Jess, we could today say, Lord, use me to help somebody who's dealing with this issue on a level that would communicate your compassion and your grace. God will answer that prayer if we'll make that prayer today.
I just hope that going forward, just praying for humility and for empathy for myself and for all of us, and just seeing where needs are and how can we share the gospel and live out the gospel through this issue and through these times. That's all we have for you guys today. We will see you here tomorrow on Discern.